how to plant a tree the right way. Here's the materials I'm going to be using. One, a shovel. Then we have, well, you got to have a way to stake it. So T-post, in this case, we're going to use this TMO Pro staker. And we have some mycorrhiza, transplant formula, a T-post driver, and compost. Oh yeah, and a tree. In this case, we're using a bur oak, which is probably my favorite tree, and we don't have one on the property, so gotta plant one. And I'm going with a 10-gallon size because I didn't feel like digging a bigger hole than that. First step is to lay your tree down because it's gonna blow over anyway because it's not supported, and I need this pot. So I'm gonna take this pot off, beat it up. That's gonna loosen the roots from the side of the pot, and then we're gonna pick this back up and it comes right out. Looking at this root ball, it looks really good. This tree is not root bound. You don't have a lot of large roots that are circling that could potentially girdle the tree. So I'm actually not going to touch these roots very much, except maybe tease them just a little. But this is something that absolutely does not need to be worked or teased because it just has a lot of little feeder roots right here at the surface is all. This is where we're going to be digging the hole. So I'm going to use this as a template, but we're not going to dig the hole just as wide as the bucket. We're going to come about 8 inches away from the bucket all the way around and just kind of mark our circle. Now move the bucket off to the side and we're going to remove all the turf that's right there. Got nice hard digging conditions today. Just what I wanted. Now if you have nice grass, you could replant it somewhere else. But we don't have nice grass out here, so this is going to go out to the dirt pile. So this is what you should be left with. All the turf is gone and you've got a start of a hole that is wider than the pot. So now we're going to start digging, and you don't want to dig any deeper than the root ball. So what I usually do as I'm digging, and I'll show you this, is I measure how deep this is. It's about 6 inches above the red. So that's how deep my hole is going to be, only that deep. All right, let's start digging. For this part, I just put all the dirt next to the hole. You'll notice I'm not stepping on the shovel. I do that sometimes, but when the soil is this hard and clay here, it just doesn't go in. So I do more of a chop and pry method in this hard soil with a really strong shovel. Yep. It's important to hydrate. Also, I'm really out of shape. I used to plant trees like all day, and now one, and I'm like breathing hard, sweating a lot. All right, I'm hoping I'm getting close now. So let's give it a measure. We're about three inches above the red. So I'm gonna dig down about an inch or two more. So I'm gonna stop right there. And the reason for that is this is the most crucial part, is getting the level right. And I always tell my guys, I would rather that tree be sitting up a little bit high rather than having it too low down in the hole. And I'll explain why whenever I put this in there. Yeah, that's just about perfect. This is just right. We're about maybe a ½ inch above the surrounding soil line, which is what I want. Because if you drop this down too deep into the hole and then put that clay soil on top of the roots, what you're going to do is you're going to cut off airflow to the roots and you're going to bury the crown of the tree. And that's ultimately going to kill your tree or severely weaken it. All this soil that we used, along with the compost, we're going to use as backfill. But right now it's in all these big chunks, and you don't want that when you're backfilling because you're going to have a lot of air pockets. So I'm just going to go through and chop up all these big dirt clods. Okay, now we're going to add the compost to the native soil that we dug out. We don't want to backfill completely with compost because what will happen then is those roots will just live in the compost and they won't want to go out and get into our native clay soil. So we give them kind of a half and half blend of the clay plus the compost. This here is a mycorrhiza plus water crystal formula. So it's actually going to help retain moisture around the root ball and inoculate the soil with mycorrhiza, which if you haven't watched our video about mycorrhiza and the importance of it for developing healthy tree roots, you should. So I'm gonna take the first packet of this and just empty it right here on top of, I didn't open, did it? Stand by. Empty it right on here. Okay, now get your tree relatively straight and backfill about 4 inches up just to make sure that we're getting some resistance so that you can do your final straightening of the tree. And now I'm actually going to pack this soil down using this T-post to break up more of those clods of dirt. Okay, so it's super important right now to get this tree straight because it will not straighten itself up after planting. So look at it from all sides and make sure you get that trunk as straight as you can. I'm gonna go that way a little bit. Now, call me Phil because we're filling in. I got one more packet of the mycorrhiza I'm gonna add in now since we're nearly full. And once again, removing air pockets. Now I know I said don't pile dirt on top of the roots. This is just temporary. Hang on. You could be smart and have a rake for this. Or you could be me. Okay, so all your excess dirt that you have here, we're gonna use this and we're gonna form an earthen dam all the way around it that we call a tree well, which will help us with watering. So we're gonna expose that root flare again, get down to the surface roots, and just work this soil outward to the edge of the root ball. And it should look like a little moat of soil around that root ball with the surface roots exposed. Now I'm gonna do one final pack around the root ball. I'm gonna take this bamboo stake off because we're gonna restake this tree and it doesn't need it anymore, it's an old one. Now it's time to stake it and we're gonna be using this TMO Pro system that I introduced at the beginning. Now the reason I like this system a lot as opposed to putting stakes in the ground and running guy wires to the tree is it's just a lot cleaner looking. So we use one T-post and one arm instead of having 3 stakes and 3 guy wires. The T-post is what's going to give this resistance, and here where we live in North Texas, the main prevailing wind that we get is either out of the south or out of the north. So I really like putting the T-post on the north side of the tree. That way when the south wind blows, it's pushing directly against that T-post and makes it stronger. So we're going to take the bumpy side of the T-post and put it towards the tree and go just outside of the root ball where we have firm ground. Now that we got it buried deep, take that off, take our rubber band off of here, and we're going to pop out these little rivets. Open this up, take your rubber band all the way off, and then this is going to fit right onto the T-post. You want to go up as high as you can because that's going to give it better resistance against the wind. Okay, so that's on there. Now we're going to take this and go around the tree and attach that like that. Get our holes lined up and pop those rivets back in. I guess they're clips more so than rivets, but whatever. Rubber band's going to go here around the trunk once or twice and then back onto a hook. Now what's cool about this system is that it allows the tree to have some play and movement. It doesn't keep it super tight, like really tight guy wires, and that will allow this trunk to flex and strengthen itself over time. And also, if you do forget to take this off, the tree will break out of this and not allow itself to girdle like it would with a wire. Almost done. Now we're going to clean up our job site and water this in. All right, We're gonna fill up this well with water. That's gonna get all the remaining air bubbles out and give this thing a really good soak. Now, after this drains down, if you want to come back with some bark mulch and just fill this in and cover up your dirt mound, that'll make it look a lot nicer. It'll also help retain moisture so you're not having to water quite so frequently. Just make sure you don't pile up any of that mulch up against the trunk of the tree and make what we call a mulch volcano. That is not good for the trunk. You do want to have that air access to the trunk. This limb is bothering me. It's hanging down way lower and kind of getting in the way of our stake. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off too. I'm a dummy and I forgot the tree wrap, so I gotta undo the stake and then wrap the trunk. Now the reason we use tree wrap is to protect the tree trunk from sun scald. So young trees are particularly susceptible to what we call sun scald here, where on the south or the west side of the tree where the sun just really bakes it, it can actually cook that bark a little bit and cause it to split, which can deteriorate the health of the tree. So we leave this on for at least the first summer and allow that tree to be shaded. Now here's a pro tip. Before you start wrapping the trunk, get a couple pieces of tape already pulled out. I use electrical tape because it will not bind the tree because it stretches. So I'm gonna have those sitting there waiting for me so I don't have to fumble with it when I get to the top. Start down here at the base. The hard part is just getting it started. Now once you got it started, and you're gonna just do kind of like re-gripping a golf club or a tennis racket. Get some overlap all the way up. You got tape here already. So there we have it, a freshly planted tree. Hopefully we'll see this thing in 30, 40 years with my grandkids playing underneath it, and may you live long and prosper.